Hey guys, welcome back to Outlaw Country. Hope you're all doing well. We are back out in the woods, finally. Finally, the feet have healed up after my hike there with Mrs. Outlaw. It's probably just from me trying to keep up with her, I don't know. My feet were pretty darn sore, but they're doing good now, so. I'm gonna head in here into this valley. I think I've got 3 cameras in here. And they haven't been checked in a few months now, so I'm going to head back in here and check out these cameras. And I got a cool little gadget that I ordered on Amazon, and you guys are all probably well aware of it, but I'm not super tech savvy, although I have a drone and I can fly it. I mean, the drone kind of flies itself, but anyways, I'm not super tech savvy, but I can get through it. But I bought this cool little gadget that it's a card reader that just plugs into my cell phone. So I don't have to take the SD cards out of the bush with me and put new ones in, which is nice because it saves me having to buy a pile of SD cards. So I can just go out to the bush and get to the camera, take the SD card out, plug it into the card reader and the card reader into my phone and download the photos right from my trail camera onto my phone and delete them all and whatever I want to do. So that's great. Anyways, I'm going to go in and check these cameras. And it's a pretty good hike into here. It's not super steep. There's a few steep parts, but it's not terribly bad. And we're going to change things up here a little bit today because I promised you all, after many requests, from longtime subscribers and new subscribers alike, for me to share my personal encounters with these people that live in these woods all over the world. My encounters obviously have just been in British Columbia, but they span over the past 35 plus years. So many of you have asked for me to share those. So I figured, you know what, I got to do what you guys want. And the channel's always been about, hasn't always been about. You know, the funny thing is I'm going to take just a couple minutes here. The funny thing is this channel was started. I started Outlaw Country because of my endeavor with History Channel's TV show Alone. And I went through the casting. If you don't know, I went through the casting for the TV show Alone several years ago. And I spent months going through casting and doing videos and whatnot. And in the end, I ended up getting cut. I wasn't one of the final 10 selected. And I decided to go and do my own Alone. And that's how my very first Alone trip started, was because of the TV show Alone. So I decided to go do my very first Alone trip completely by myself with 10 items. And I've done that 3 times now. And those videos are way back at the beginning of my videos. And then, you know, in the meantime, as I say, I've had some pretty crazy encounters with these beings of the forest for the past 35 years, and I shared a little bit of that with Steve Isdall. And then one of my subscribers, when I had like 50 subscribers or 70 subscribers on Outlaw Country, one of my subscribers emailed in an encounter that they had, and I read it, and I promised at that point, I said, anybody that has an encounter that wants to share it, you can certainly share it with Steve at How to Hunt, or you can share it with me. And if you share it with me, I promise I will read them. And that was the beginning of it all. And there's been, you know, I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails now, and I'm doing my best to read them all. So that's kind of where that all started. But anyways, I've had a bunch of people on me to tell my side of things. And I haven't really said too much. I've shared a little bit on some previous videos, but I haven't shared a ton over the course of Outlaw Country, because it's always been about you guys and people that want to share their encounters with me and are afraid to talk about it, or don't want to talk about it, and I will. So anyways, what we're going to do, we're going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to head in here to these trail cams, and I'm going to tell you guys starting back in 1990. I'm going to tell you guys what I've gone through over the past 35 years and the experiences that I've had. And then if we got time, maybe we'll read an email in here. We'll see, or yeah, read another email in here or whatever. I don't need to sit by no creek or nothing when I tell you guys my encounters, because I don't have anything written down. They're all right here. So I'll do my very best to try to remember everything that's happened, because there's been a lot more in the last, there's been a lot more happened to me in the last few years than there has, in the past 35 years. So earlier on there wasn't a ton, but pretty significant stuff. So anyhow, let's get rolling here and get ready for Outlaw Country story time. All right. I've had so many people say to me over the past few years, that it's not wise to be out traipsing through the wild country. There's bears, there's cougars, there's this, there's Bigfoot, there's this, there's that. And I know there is. I know there's all these creatures and wild animals, but I've been doing it my whole life. And I rely on my senses just as much as the animals do. You know what I mean? I rely on my sense of smell, my hearing, my eyesight. But I would say actually probably in that order. I have a very good sense of smell. I have reasonable hearing, and I have pretty shitty eyesight. But if you ask my hunting partners, a lot of them will tell you that I've kind of got an eagle eye as well. I do spot animals quite well. Anyhow, without further ado, I am going to get into when it all started for me. So, I would say that my very first introduction to the forest people dates back to probably the mid-80s. The mid-1980s, 84 maybe for me, 83 or 84. And I was in school, and I, like many of you, heard the encounter of Paddy, the Gimlin film, Patterson Gimlin. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. And of course saw the footage on the very old camera, 35mm I believe, or whatever, video camera, and saw that, and that's when it all started. That's when it all started for me, because I'm like, even as a kid, I was like, holy cow, that's pretty wild. I'd hunted a little bit at that time. By then, I started hunting when I was probably about 8 or 9. So I'd hunted by then, and I was kind of like, wow, isn't that something else? And really got to watch for bears out here. And you know what's funny is, this is outlaw. Mrs. Outlaw pretty much got introduced to these people, although I didn't even know her at the time, at about the same time. And I found out a few years after her and I met that she actually did a book report presentation in school on Bigfoot. So anyways, it was probably the mid 80s maybe when I had my introduction to these people. And then fast forward maybe probably only like 6 years. So 1990. So that's 35 years ago, right? Yeah, 35 years ago. So 35 years ago, I am hard into hunting and fishing and running through the woods. And I'd been sheep hunting for a few years, and I decided to go on a sheep hunt, and it was beginning of September. Oh damn, that's a bear den. It was beginning of September. And I went on my sheep hunt. And I was hunting an area west of a town called Lillooet, British Columbia. That's where I was hunting for California bighorn sheep. It's the one area of British Columbia that does, there's several, but this is one area of British Columbia that does hold bighorn sheep. And they are California sheep, California bighorns. So anyways, I go on my hunting trip, and I'm planning 2 weeks backpack trip alone into the remote alpine mountains of British Columbia. And my mom and dad knew where I was. They knew where I was hunting, which was important. And so I took off for my hunt. And it was from where I parked my truck, it was about a 6 or 7 hour, solid 6 or 7 hours of hiking up into the alpine to where the sheep are, or where you start hunting them. And I wanted to camp just down in the jack pines, just below the alpine. So I get to that area, set up my little pup tent, tiny little one-man tent. I set up my tent and tried to gather a little bit of dry firewood so that I could have a fire. And it's all good. All's good. First day, first night, no problem. Everything's great. Well, sheep weren't open yet. So when you go sheep hunting, generally you go a few days before opening day of the season, which I did. So sheep weren't open yet. So next morning, so I did notice that night that it was pretty quiet in the area. I did do a little bit of glassing the adjacent hillsides and stuff, looking for deer and obviously looking for sheep that night before it got dark, and I didn't see anything. And I do remember that was a little odd. I'm like, that's strange. There's always deer up here, like especially this time of year. They're always up in the alpine and feeding and whatnot. And because deer weren't open. And I thought, geez, that's a little odd. And so anyways, my first actual day there, I get up into the alpine, I start glassing and hiking and glassing, and nothing. I never saw a deer. I never saw nothing. It was just absolutely dead quiet, and I thought that was really, really odd. And then that evening, I'm sitting around my tent, and I didn't have a fire going. It wasn't dark yet. I didn't have a fire going or nothing. And I had that overwhelming feeling come over me that I was being watched, that something was around me. And I didn't know what. I didn't know what was around me. I just had a feeling that there was something around my camp. You know, grizzly, black bear, whatever, cougar, I didn't know. But, you know, again, I was only 20 years old, right? So I'd had a fair bit of experience in the bush and hunting, but, you know, only as much as you can have from the time you're really about 15 or 14 until you're 20. So, you know, 5 or 6 years of experience, which is really nothing compared to now. Anyhow, I knew something was around me. I knew something was around, and I was cautious. And and again, there was just no game around. I'm like, that is strange. So the next day was opening day for sheep, and I grabbed my pack, and away I went up into the alpine, and I got up into the bowl, a ridgeline that I wanted to glass the bowls, looking for sheep, and I started glassing. And when you sheep hunt, that's basically what it is. Okay, sheep hunting is just hours and hours and hours of glassing. So make myself at home, I sit down and I start glassing. And I glass for hours and hours and hours and hours, have a snack, have a drink, keep glassing. And that's just all you can do, right? And you'd glass and take a break and just look with your eyes and look for movement or whatever. And anyhow, the day goes on. Several hours go by. And as I'm just looking I'm not using my binoculars, I'm just looking with the naked eye. As I'm looking around, way down below me, probably 300 to 400 yards below me, at the bottom of the draw and on the other side, kind of just up out of the jack pines into the alpine, I see something kind of move a little bit, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And it's dark. It's a dark color, so I'm like, it's not a sheep, and it's by itself, and it's round, so like a round figure. So I kind of seen it shimmer, you know, just like I could tell it was hair, you know what I mean? Like the sun shined on it, and I could see the shimmer of the hair. So I was like, oh yeah, black bear, right? Maybe a grizzly, who knows? Could be either. So I'm kind of just looking at it. Well, I grabbed my binoculars, and I put my binoculars up on it, and it did, you know, at 300 or 400 yards, it did kind of look like a black bear, kind of standing there feeding on something. And so I'm looking at it through the binos, and all of a sudden this thing stands up, which black bears do, of course. We all know they can walk on 2 legs for a long ways. But this thing stands up, and it's got its back to me. And again, I'm 300 or 400 yards out, and I'm sitting in a rock pile, and I'm in, you know, rock camo. And this thing turns in my direction, and appeared, hard to tell with the shitty binoculars that I had, but it appeared to give me a glance. You know, did one of these, and then it took off away from me on two legs. And that's when I knew right then and there it wasn't a bear. Until that moment, my brain was still saying bear. But at that moment when this thing started walking, and you know, it was, I'm guessing it was 8 feet tall, massive, super thick, and it took off not running, but at a very brisk walk and extremely long strides, heading away from me, heading towards the jack pines. And these jack pines were literally probably 100 yards, if that, from where this thing was. And the jack pines are just a small pine tree. They're about 6 or 7 feet high, and they get bigger as you go down the hill. And I dropped my binoculars. I grabbed my 300 Win Mag. I used to shoot a 300 Winchester mag. I still have the gun. I grabbed my 300 Win Mag. It's always loaded. And I spin around, and I lay down on the ground. I drop my bipod on my gun, and quickly drop my bipod on my gun, and I get my gun shouldered, and I'm searching for this thing. Back then I had a Leopold 3x9, a variable scope. So I get the gun. I finally get on this thing, and I zoomed in a little bit, and my heart started pounding out of my chest, and I'm hyperventilating like crazy, and I'm terrified, to be honest with you, because I'm putting eyes on this thing, and I was just like, I can't frickin' believe this. And I'm just looking at it through my scope, following it, and I literally, honestly, probably had 4 to 5 seconds. That's it. Before this thing hit the timber. It felt like minutes, but it certainly wasn't. And I'm watching it through my scope and just in awe. And as it's walking away from me, it kind of took a step and stopped like that and turned and looked. And again, I'm 300 to 400 yards from it. It took a step. Okay, you guys are me. It's walking away from me. It stopped mid-stride, turned, and kind of looked at me, and then took off and was gone within a half a second. It was gone into the jack pines. And I could not believe it. I absolutely could not believe my eyes. So it kind of made sense to me as to why I hadn't seen any game. But it's, you know, and after seeing the Patty footage, I did, you know, after seeing that, I believed in these beings. I had no reason not to. I was like, of course they could live out there remotely. There's no doubt about it. And so I totally believed in these beings, and now I just saw one of the rarest creatures on the face of the earth. And I laid eyes on it. I was like, that's just freaking wild. So you gotta remember, you guys, this is long before really any controversy. You know, there was no internet back then. All you had was the news, people's opinions, word of mouth, that kind of shit, right? So there was no controversy surrounding these creatures. It was just like, holy shit. I just basically saw one of the rarest creatures on the planet. Anyhow, was I scared? Absolutely. 100%. Not going to lie to anyone. I was scared shitless. But I didn't know anything about these things, people. I didn't know anything about them. So for me, it was You know, was I scared? Yeah, but kind of the same type of fear, really, that I would have had it been a grizzly bear. That type of fear. It's like, yeah, well, that fucker could come back tonight, so I got to be careful, and so on and so forth, which I did. So I did stay and hunt. I spent, I think I spent 12 or 13 days there, almost my full 2 weeks. And not right in that area. I hunted that area for a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days, looking hard for sheep. Never saw any sheep in that area, so packed my camp up and went another, you know, maybe another 7 or 8 miles north into another drainage, and then hunted there for the rest of my trip, and then came out. So I did carry on. I did do my hunt, and I never had another problem. I never saw anything else, heard anything else, nothing. That was it. And I remember when I came home, I was like, oh, what do I say? Because obviously, I'm like, you know, people are not going to believe you. People are just not going to believe when you tell them you saw one of these beings. So I told one person, a good friend of mine that I hunted with, and he totally believed me. But he kind of said the same as me. He's like, well, I wouldn't go around telling too many people about that. They're gonna commit you. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. So that was the end of it. Never really said too much to anybody. So that was in 1990. And then in 1992, 2 years later, it was not late November, mid-November, around November 20th, third week in November. I would always go back to that Lillooet area. And if you watch Steve, you'll hear Steve talk about Lillooet and Pemberton and Duffy Lake, and that's a whole area that I'm talking about. It's my second favorite place in the world. And I go back up there for my annual mule deer rut hunt, which I've hunted mule deer up there now for 40 years. I've gone to the relatively the same area for the last 40 years. I've only missed like 1 year because I was sick. Otherwise, I go every single year. And again, I was alone. I hunted alone a ton, right? Just because often people wouldn't want to go, or they wouldn't want to go for that long. Yeah. So, anyways, I went on my mule deer hunt, just like the time that I met that buddy of mine, Rob, that I gave some grouse to, right? This was quite a few years prior to that, but I went on my mule deer hunt, and I went into an area that I knew, but it was I'd never been into that valley before. So there's a main valley that goes in, and it's a box canyon, and it goes in about 20 miles, 25 miles, and there's several different draws that go off of it. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up that one. I've never been up that one before. Grab my pack, my gun, and away I go. And as I say, it's November 20th or whatever. So it's cold. There's snow on the ground. And I head off up this valley. And I left the truck fairly early in the morning. And I get up there. I'm probably 4 hours or 5 hours into my hike up the valley. And you got to remember, I didn't have GPS or nothing back then. It didn't exist. Well, if it did, I certainly couldn't have afforded it. But you would basically just go off of compass and maps, right? Paper maps and a compass, which is what I did. Anyhow, I take off up the valley, and I'm 4 or 5 hours up, and I'm now like, okay, I'm going to try to find a place that I can set up my tent and build a bit of a camp, because I'm going to hunt here for a while. I had about a week to try and get a nice mule deer. So sorry guys, I got to look around, and I got to be real conscious of my surroundings as I'm walking and talking here. But anyhow, I'm sort of slowing my pace now, and I'm looking for a good place to set up camp and whatnot. And I hear literally the most horrific scream slash roar slash, I can't even explain it. But it was up above me, up the draw above me, but not far. I'm guessing it was 500 yards and in. And this thing screamed at me, and it was making banging noises and screaming bloody murder. And it was like nothing I'd ever heard in my life. And I've never heard that type of a noise exactly like that ever before that or ever after that. This thing screamed, literally made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. I was so scared. It just had that sound to it of, like it had the sound of, I'm going to kill you. Go any further and I'm going to kill you. And I was just like, holy fuck. And I don't know why. Probably because I knew it wasn't a bear. I knew it wasn't a cougar. I'd spent enough time in the bush, okay? I know those animal sounds. Wolverine, wolf, elk. There is no elk right there. But anyways, I know the sounds, and I knew that this was not one of those things immediately. So I would say because of that, and because of what happened a few years prior to that, my brain just went, it's one of them. It's one of these forest people. I was like, holy shit. But I was scared. Like literally, I was scared for my life. So I didn't even hesitate. I literally spun around. And took off. And I probably, not gonna lie to you, was probably running at that point. I was probably running out of the woods. For most of the ways anyways. I hightailed it nonstop all the way back down to my truck because I was absolutely terrified. And I got to my truck, and it's not like this thing was following me or anything, right? It did these two super long roars. Like the roars probably were, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 20 or 30 seconds long. So I got back to my truck, and I was like, oh my God, I just could not believe what had happened again. And so I decided, nope, I'm not going up anywhere near that valley. So I carried on up the main box canyon for probably another 10 miles, and ended up sleeping in my truck that night because it was too late, and too late to go start hiking. So I slept in my truck that night. Next morning, so the valley I had gone up was 10 miles back, and it went to the east. Now I'm 10 miles further up the valley, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go up to the west and into a valley that I'd been into before for deer. So went up there and did my 5-day hunt, 6-day hunt, whatever it was, and not another sound or sight or nothing. So there was the second time, and it was, these two occurrences were in the same area because I hunted the same area a ton. I hunted there for deer and sheep, so I hunted there lots, right? The bugs are coming out. All right, so maybe a year or two later, couple years later, I have my good buddy with me, and we are elk hunting. And we're elk hunting in the Kootenays. In the Kootenays of British Columbia. Not far off the BC US border in the Kootenays, Rocky Mountains. And my buddy was very new to hunting. He'd only been maybe on one deer trip prior to this elk trip with me. And this was his first time like actually carrying a gun and actually hunting. So we had seen a herd of elk up on a mountainside and from the road. We'd seen this herd of elk, and they're probably 6 miles from us. So I said, okay, man, grab your shit, we're going. And he didn't know any better, right? And that's the way I did things. Like, I didn't need a trail or a road or whatever. If I saw an animal, away I went. So we take off, and it's early morning, like it's daybreak. So we take off and head in after these elk. And a few hours goes by, and whatever, the elk they may have been gone by the time we got there, but whatever, we would wait them out. And I always carried a tarp with me and a little bit of food, and you could spend the night, right? If you had to. So we headed in after these elk, and we get in. We're quite a ways in now, and we get to this little valley, and it was a beautiful little valley. There was nice grass down in the bottom of the valley, and a creek running through. It was beautiful. So that's why the elk were in there. And very remote, very isolated. So we got into there, and I said to my buddy, I said, hey, I'm going to give him a call. I'm going to give the elk a call. You never know. Let's see if we can maybe pinpoint where they're at, or who knows, maybe they're hard enough in the rut that they'll come out. So he's like, yeah, okay. So I let go a young bull elk call. And as soon as I made that call, as soon as I sort of stopped, within about a couple of seconds, I hear this god-awful scream. Horrible. Very similar to what I'd heard, very similar but not exactly the same to what I'd heard when I was on my deer hunt just a couple years prior. This is a total different area, right? We're 600 miles apart. But anyways, this thing fucking screams at us. And it is an absolutely horrifying screaming sound. And it's in the timber, and it's probably only 500 yards from us. Across this little draw across the creek in the timber. And it was not an elk. Okay, so you elk hunters, you bet elk can sure make some crazy ass sounds. I've heard them myself, but this was not an elk. And I was like, my eyes were like saucers. And my buddy who's new to hunting, he's like, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, oh great, here's some bear shit. My buddy's like, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, that, my friend, was a Bigfoot. And those elk are gonna live to see another day, because we are frickin' out of here. And I said, let's roll, we're gone. And this thing screamed a couple of times as well, and you could see the trees. Okay, they were trees like this size, probably. You know, like maybe 6 inches across, 4 to 6 inches across or so, like probably that height, like 20, 30 feet high, 30 feet high or whatever. And live trees, you could see the trees shaking back and forth. And this thing, while this thing was screaming, so this thing either whatever, it had a hold of a couple of trees, and it was just rattling these trees. It was insane. And I said, we're out of here, man. So, and we booked it, gone back to the truck. And the whole way back, my buddy's like, what the fuck do you mean a Bigfoot? What are you talking about? Those fucking things aren't real. I said, oh yeah, they are. Sorry to tell you, but you bet your ass they are. And if you don't believe me, that's completely up to you. But I know they do. So there was that time. And then we go fast forward quite a few years, maybe about 5 years or 6 years. And I was moose hunting. And I had one of these beings follow me I'd caught a glimpse of this thing, okay? And I know it wasn't a bear again. I didn't get a super good look at it, but I know damn well it wasn't a bear. I'm gonna take a break here just for a minute, you guys. Anyhow, sorry, I just had to take a break for a few minutes. It's really hard to walk and, try to remember these experiences I had and be paying attention to my surroundings. So I'm taking a break here for a minute. But anyways, so I was on a moose hunt, and it was a moose / sheep, stone sheep trip. And so I'd seen something, and I know damn well it wasn't a bear. It was evening time, and it was near camp, and I seen it moving through the bush. And I thought it was a person at first, but then I'm just like, there's just no way. There's no one around here. Like, we are literally hundreds and hundreds of kilometers from anything. And I did call out, like, hey, like we do if there's a predator around camp or whatever. Anyhow, I saw this thing and just a brief glimpse of it. And the next day, that was when I first seen it. Then the next day I was hiking in from lake to lake along this creek, and I heard huge branches being broken. Yes, moose can do that, so I wasn't terribly concerned. But I heard these branches. What did concern me, I heard these branches being broken, and you do have to be careful around when you're moose hunting for grizzlies and stuff. You start calling, the grizzlies will come in. So I didn't call. I'd be walking, I'd hear like a massive break, and I'd turn and look, but then a couple of times I'd turn and I saw something sort of bolt through the timber. And was it something else? Could have been. I'm not saying 100% for sure that time it was one of these beings, but the thing is it followed me for more than 2 days, for 2.5 days. It followed where I was going, and it was like, not only could I feel the presence, I caught sight of something in the bush several times, and it was just like a blur, just a real fast blur, dark figure. Usually it was in the morning, sometimes midday, morning or evening. Anyhow, it did. Whatever it was following me for several days. And so I hunted that area, and then I said, screw it. And because I hadn't seen any moose, so I was like, screw it, I'm going to go to a different area. Left that area, went another, probably went 5 miles away, maybe more, maybe 10 miles. And up to another lake, set up camp, and that's where I stayed. So there was that. And then, we're still talking the mid 90s. Okay. And then what's crazy is then nothing for a long time, like a long time. And I was spending just as much or more time out in the woods, and nothing, no encounters whatsoever for many years. And I'm like, I never thought of it. I was just like, well, okay, great. And then I'm just trying to remember sort of the next sort of chain of events. I would say after that, the next thing that happened was probably Mrs. Outlaw and I And when we went into my lake to go fishing, and it was early morning, Mrs. Outlaw and I headed into the lake to go fishing, and there was, whatever, there was, as far as I'm concerned, there was one of them down at the lake, and it was hammering the shit out of some trees, banging the trees like you would not believe. And she said, "What is that?" You know, and I was like, it's not a moose, because we don't have moose here on Vancouver Island. And it's not an elk, because it's late spring, early summer, they don't have horns. They're just growing their horns. They're not banging them against trees. So it was making a hell of a racket, this thing. And I just looked at her and I said, "We're not fishing today. We're out of here." So we left. And we took off. And that kind of was like, that's when I kind of went, like, they're in here too, right? And I mentioned it to Steve when I was having a chat with Steve one day. And that's when Steve told me that this area where my lake is, it's a very well-known area. There's a lot of, Steve knows some native ladies from that area, and there is just a shit pile of encounters and sightings and whatnot in that area. It's a real hot zone, which I didn't know at the time. Anyhow, so there was the bang when Mrs. Outlaw and I went in there. Then another time I went in fishing on my own, and I put it on video. I was heading in, going through the dark timber down towards the lake, and there was two of them. And they were banging rocks. You could tell it was rocks, it wasn't trees. They were banging rocks together. You could hear the clank, clank, clank. And then they were making a sound. They were like, it was a very deep, you know what it sounded like? It sounded like a great big frickin' toad, like a big frog. A real deep, guttural, moaning sound. And I heard it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" So I grabbed my phone and I put the camera on, put on video, and recorded it briefly. And they were making this racket. There was one here, and there was another one here, on both sides of this little trail that I had going down the lake, one on each side. So I was like, "Fuck this! I'm out of here." And I said that right on the video. I was like, "Fuck this! I'm out of here." And I took off. I was gone. So I was like, "Okay, I'm not going in there that day either." Then I discovered that huge bone pile, and I've got that on video for you guys. If you look back on the previous videos, all you got to do is look back on my videos, and you'll find them on there. I had the huge bone pile that I found, and I was probably 3 hours from the nearest road, back in the timber, back in the mountains, 3 hours at least from my truck, walking along, and I'm like, and I see a bone. And you'll see in that video, I see a bone. I'm like, that's odd. You know, there's wolves here, so you don't often find bones out in the woods. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. And carry on. Another bone. And I'm like, it's got to be a kill or something here. Go a little further, and there's more, like, now I'm seeing like 4 or 5 or 6 bones. I'm like, geez. And then I look and I go, what the fuck is that? And there's a pile of bones. Check out the video. There is a pile of bones, animal bones, and hair, and it's in a dugout. Okay, you can see the earth, the ground is flat. There's a bit of a hole. Something dug out this little hole, and all these bones were in there, and there was hair, hide, and I was like, holy shit, I am out of here. I videoed a little bit, and I'm like, I'm fucking gone. So I took off out of that area. What else did we have? I think before the bones, maybe. I'm just trying to remember everything here, guys, so bear with me. I think before the bones was when I was up at on that ridge above that beautiful lake, and had no idea. I was up there hiking, and I think I was I don't even know if I was pumping out an email that day or not. It might have just taking some video. I can't remember, but you'll see the video. And I'm just recording just like this, doing my thing, whatever, on my hike, go home, cut out the parts of the video that I didn't think were interesting and post the video. And I start looking at the comments, and I get tons of comments from people saying, what the fuck was that behind you? And so on. And so anyway, what was that flash behind you, that blob behind you? And so I reviewed the video, or somebody emailed me just a short clip of that. And then because I didn't want, I'm like, well, they could have edited it or whatever. So I looked at my original and I rewatched that portion, and yep, sure as shit, there was some kind of a shadow or something behind me in the trees, and you could see it moving, and then you could see it come out the other side of the tree. It was pretty freaky. It actually gives me shivers just thinking about it right now. And there was like a flash, which was bizarre. And I was like, what the fuck did I capture here? Like, this is crazy. Anyhow, so there was that. That was pretty wild. Ton of comments about that one, and a ton of, I had people like slow down the footage and clear it up and like all zoom in, all this different kind of stuff, and then email it to me, and I'm like, wow, bizarre. So there's that. There was the deer carcass 16 feet up a tree on a branch. Okay, I got that on film for you guys. And that was not too far from my favorite lake. And that deer carcass was stuck up on a branch 16 feet up a tree. Bizarre. Okay, and I asked Steve about that because Steve's a pro hunter, hunting guide, expert hunter. I asked Steve, cougar? And he goes, nope. Cats don't take their food up a tree, they bury it just like household cats. So I'm like, holy shit. And I showed him the video and everything. Anyways, I posted that one. Then we had the time I was out for my hike, and again, I got a video of it. I was out on my hike, dropped my pack, and I went down over the bank. So I dropped my pack up on the top of the ridge, and I went down over the bank to the creek to have a drink. And I set my pack up against a stump and went down, had my drink, came back up, and get to my pack, and there's a eagle feather stuffed into the stump, rotten stump, right beside my pack. Could a person have done that? Yeah, I guess. But I didn't see anybody, hear anybody. Why would somebody do that? I would never do that to somebody. I'd be scared to get shot. But there's an eagle feather. And ironically, that tattoo on my arm here is for my memorial tattoo for my dad. My dad's favorite animals. Favorite bird was an eagle. And I got a tattoo of an eagle. And I love eagles. So there was the eagle feather stuck in the stump. Then, the findings that I've found, the structures I've found, numerous of them, just because I'm probably way more aware of it now. After reading all these emails, I'm way more aware of those types of things. Before, I probably used to walk right by them. Anyhow, there's the structures, there's the bones in the tree, right? Just my last video, when Mrs. Outlaw and I went into the lake, we found the bones on the ground, but there's a video from a long time ago where those bones were on a cliff face, on this cliff face, and there was a tree growing up. So about 20 feet up the cliff, there was a tree, and about 15 feet up that tree, propped on the branches, were these two huge bones stacked like that. They did not fall like that. I don't give a shit who says they could have just fallen there, whatever. Like, that's absolutely absurd. They were placed there. They were put there, right? The one bone was resting in the groove of the balls of the other bone, and it was like this in the letter T. Had no idea what that meant or whatever. I took video of it. I did not touch the bones because that kind of shit freaks me out. So I didn't touch them. I left them alone. I was kind of freaked out that I was like, could they be human bones? Were they elk bones, bear bones, whatever? And when I posted that video a long time ago, a bunch of people responded and said, no, they don't look like human bones. They're too large diameter. So there was that. The bones in the tree. What am I missing? Am I missing anything, you guys? Like I say, all sorts of structures, all sorts of sounds, calls. You know what? I'm not here to convince anybody. Okay. I really don't give a shit if you don't believe that these people exist. I don't care. It's no skin off my back. It really isn't. I know they do, and thousands of other people know they do. There can be thousands that disagree and say they don't. That's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I'm not trying to convince anyone. You know, this channel is an open network for anybody that wants to email in, and there's been plenty of those. But you guys wanted to hear what I've gone through over the past 35 years. Well, there you have it. Is there more? I don't. There might be. I might have missed a few things. I can't really remember. But like I say, it dates back 35 years. Lillooet, British Columbia. Not right in Lillooet. I'm not going to tell you where I go hunting. I'm not going to give away my favorite hunting spot in the world, but it's around Lillooet. It's within 2 hours of Lillooet, let's say that. And that's where it all began for me. And like I say, that Steve's mentioned it, you know, the Pemberton Valley, the Duffy Lake, the Lillooet Lytton area, all through there. I mean, they're, you know, we had a lady just not that long ago from Haida Gwaii sent in a recording of a crazy sound that we're confident, I'm confident that's what it was. It wasn't an elk. You know, Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alberta, Toronto, California, like everywhere. Anyhow, I'm gonna get rock and rolling here a little bit, and I'll check our time. I don't want to take too much of your time on one video, but I'll see how much time we've been on here, and if I feel we've got time for an email read, we'll go for it. If not, that'll be it for today. And again, you know, I'm just sharing with you my experiences, and I'm also sharing anybody that wishes to email in and share their encounters or their thoughts or beliefs or whatever. You know, nothing's insignificant. Don't ever feel like, oh, that I didn't actually see it, so it didn't happen. You know, if you saw something that you go, that is crazy, and you feel like emailing, email me, outlawcountry1896@gmail.com. All right, I can't tell what time it is because I don't have my Cospit watch on. I don't have my watch on because I went in and got a bunch more ink done on my arm, right from my wrist line up. Spent 8 hours in the tattoo chair in one sitting. Yeah, I'm a little tender, so I can't wear a watch still. And that's why I always wear a jacket in the bush. I won't wear short sleeve shirts. But anyways, maybe once the tattoo's all healed up, I'll show it to you. Anyhow, people, that's it for now. If I have time, I'll fire off an email because I think we're up almost 500 emails now, sitting in the inbox unread. Oh, quick update for you. Quick update. Not going to get into it too much because, but I had a chat with Kathy, not a phone call, just we chatted via text about 4 days ago. And she just said, hey, Darren, I just wanted to give you a quick update. About every 5 days, they sprinkle gunpowder around their shed now. And she goes, we've had no issues whatsoever for weeks now. She goes, we haven't seen anything around our property. She said Gord's got cameras, trail cams set up along the fence line on the far side of the property and stuff. And not that they've ever caught anything of these beings on trail cam. But anyways, she said no sign of them, no calls, no sightings early in the morning, late at night, nothing around the barn. They've had their goats back for quite some time now. And she said, we are going to give it maybe another couple weeks and we're going to go get a couple more goats. So that's awesome, Kathy. I'm so happy for you guys. There's a million comments on people commenting on that too, Kathy. So with other ideas of things to do to maybe help deter these people, but I'm glad it's working for you. That's just awesome. So anyhow, I need to get going here. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on Kathy. I'm pretty happy for her. So, okay, I'm out of here, people. We'll catch you later. What a day, man. What a great day in the woods. Got to all my cameras. I did have 3 cameras in here. I had them marked on my locations, marked on my GPS, and I had 3 in here. So downloaded all the video. I do 10-second video blips on all my cameras, no photos, because if I want a still photo, I just take a screenshot of the video, and it uses up less space and everything. So I downloaded all the video onto my phone, and when I get home I will go through them all. And I didn't go through them here. I'll do that once I get home. I'll go through them all and airdrop them onto my iPad. And I hope you guys enjoyed that little clip I put together there a week or so back of all my trail cams from that other area. The cougar and the bears. The cougar, the bears, the elk. I thought that was pretty cool. How about that cougar? How about that cougar when it followed my tracks right in, sniffing my tracks right into where I put the camera up. That was freaking wild, eh? That sucker was tracking me. He was tracking me. Kind of makes your hair stand on end when you think about that, eh? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that little video of the trail cam footage, and I'll do another one for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, my sharing my experiences with these people. I hope I didn't disappoint. Many of you that have followed me for a while probably have heard most of that stuff before, but whatever. Give it all to you in a nutshell, right? Okay, so I got my videos downloaded from my cameras. Check. I told you guys all of my 35 years worth of experiences. Check. I'm gonna hightail it out of here. Whoops. I'm gonna hightail it out of here, get to my truck. I'm gonna go home. My feet are feeling better. I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna sit in the sunshine and enjoy a cold beer, because I feel like I've earned it. Put on a lot of miles here today. Here's a bear torn this tree up, I'd say. That's pretty damn fresh. That's pretty fresh. I know I had, as I was throwing the videos onto my phone, I know there was a few bears on the video, on the cameras. There always is. Lots of bears in here. Okay, you guys, listen. I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching Outlaw Country, and I appreciate you coming along on these hikes with me. It's a lot less lonely when you got company in the bush, when you got your Outlaw Country community out here walking with you. I love it. It's awesome. So, thanks for joining me, you guys. Have a great day. Be safe. And as I always say, and as I always mean it, be a good person. Seriously, be a good person. Do something nice for someone. Makes you feel better about yourself. Pay it forward. All right? Pay it forward. Okay. I'm going to sign off, you guys. And we'll see you all in the next video. One more quick little thing before I let you all go. I just want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you members. People that have joined the membership part of the channel. Really appreciate you. And as I said, I didn't do that to make money by any means or anything like that. I did the membership section of the channel because a bunch of people asked for it, and it gives me a little bit of money to be able to send you guys some cool gifts, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I've got 4 Outlaw Country coffee mugs that are going to be given away to members. All right, 4 Outlaw Country coffee mugs going to members, and then I have some other special giveaways that are going to be just for members. Don't worry, people that can't be members, okay, I'm still going to do giveaways and whatnot for you people as well, but I just feel like I have to do a few special things for the people that have signed up to the membership. Okay, that's it. Now I'm out of here. Okay, be good. Later.